Well, thanks for staying with us on the program this morning. Like I said before the break, our next focus is on areas of consolidating gains of military efforts in security in Nigeria. And this is at a time when we've grappled with issues of terrorism, either in forms of insurgency or banditry over the last 2 decades. Now, on the program this morning, I have men who have given their life in service to ensuring that these areas are improved upon. Joining me in the studio this morning are two fine gentlemen. To my immediate right is Chief Superintendent of Police, PSU, Samson Chibuzes. There's also the Executive Protocol Professional, Security Expert, and Protocol Specialist. He's seated next to his colleague, Minabai, Seibofa, International Protocol and Executive Protection Professional, and the Chief of Protocol, Sheffield Protocol Consultant. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning and thank you. Good morning, viewers. Good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning, and it's a pleasure to be here this morning.
Now, before we get into the challenges, which I'm very sure our viewers and every Nigerian knows in terms of the peculiar challenges affecting regions, one thing that is common to both of your fields of expertise is protocol. And now from the angle of security protocol, because for whatever challenge we face, we know that there is a regimental process of addressing it that has been instilled in every force, be it the police, the Navy, the Army. In your field of work and in your approach to ensuring that there is enhanced security in the country, how important is this protocol in terms of the gains that Nigeria has recorded over the years?
Yeah, thank you very much. Protocol is everything. It cuts across everything we do, and they are in their application. They are also peculiar to every agency and unit when it comes to the forces. So the gain so far has also been accredited to some certain level of protocol observed, though there is also a mismatch in terms of public awareness. So, and that is where protocol comes to play, because there is need for a greater orientation of the public about your stake in maintaining security across board. Not just what you feel or what people are saying or what, social media, most times can mislead. But then there is a responsibility attached to everyone, because it's a collective effort. Thank you very much.
Let's come to you, Minabai. Is it a shared perspective? Are there areas in terms of what he says, the misinformation on the part of public, in terms of response time sometimes? Because we hear situations, recent issues in Plateau State particularly, some of the community dwellers said that there are challenges when they put a call across to security agencies that they're under attack. Most times the response time is too long, and by then those who are carrying out the assault would have done what they are done with and left.
Yes, thank you once again for the opportunity to be here, and good morning, viewers, once again. I share his perspective, and it's important to know that protocol timing in all of these areas is very important. Like you mentioned, response time. The difference between life and death, the difference between disaster and anything or that could avert it is the response time. And so while efforts are being made, all right, we won't take away the fact that efforts are not being made. While efforts are being made, that response time is a very key factor, and it's what makes the difference between whether a community is going to be lynched, a community is going to be destroyed, or a community is going to be safe. So as much as concerted efforts have been made, I think we need to bring it up to speed, where we will see response time not taking too long to respond to issues and crises, especially when calls have been put through. The difference is just within a second, within the minute. And one of the things that we have seen over time is because sometimes there has been a lack of communication, and that's where protocol comes in, right? There's a lack of communication, and the consolidation we are talking here is that consolidation that carries a multifaceted approach, where we involve civilians as well, where we involved other processes as well, and security agencies as well. we'll talk about that as we go further. Security agencies coming together with security-led intelligence, vital intelligence that will be able, that when communication comes, we know where and what to point at each point in time. So it's very, very critical. Protocol is communication, and once that communication is breached, we'll continue to see these lapses that we are having.
Now, let's come back to an important point you raised, information on the part of the public. Yeah. Whilst we know that there's a challenge of insufficient boots on ground from policing to police the vast areas we have in the country and even our population, the ratio of one policeman to Nigerians has been a global subject of debate. But whilst this is the case, we now understand that security is our collective responsibility.
Definitely.
What are some of the practical ways that this communication can be effectively carried out from the community level, where some of these issues of insecurity manifest themselves, right up until the top?
Okay, thank you very much. When we talk about information, first of all, the public need to earn the trust of the agencies, be it the military or the police. So there is need for synergy, whereby the communities are engaged. You cannot police my community more than me that is from that community. You cannot also superhead the affairs of the community more than the village chief in charge of that area. So what does that imply? It's simple. There is need for collaboration, and this collaboration cannot happen without proper communication. People need to know their stake at every point in time. For instance, you talk about response time. How do you even make request for help? How do you communicate? How do you know, because there is a way to pass this information and get this response. Remember, you can make that call at point A and there is no response in the next 1 hour, and someone else makes the call at point B and gets maybe some sort of closer response than the previous. So what happened there is that one has a little knowledge and is also applied, and there is already an integration that makes it faster and accessible. So if you take it on the average, military, police, or DSS, name them, cannot safeguard us all as a country. If you look at it properly, either by statistics or by your own common sense, you will note emphatically that everybody has a role to play. Even if you say, okay, like the usual saying, one police, one man, we are not there yet. So why would we be waiting when I can do something? We will achieve the result faster, easier, efficient, and minimize whatever vices that emanate from our several communities. Because when you hear it happening here, it happened in Plateau, it happened in this other place, these are communities. People live there. They know their neighbors. A stranger will take time to study and begin to, put things in framework in place. But the community already have framework. Because, first of all, what is their culture? Maybe they are used to eating together. So it's a culture. Then leveraging on them, used to doing things together, is already a massive gain to achieving security in that particular, environment. So we have to begin to weigh these options of putting in the culture of people coming out to embrace the services of the security agencies and earn trust. Because one of the things that is pulling individuals back or citizens back is the fact that once you hear the military, there is already fear. These people that can, hit you hard. Yes. Once you hear the police, you say, these people that can force me to write statement and label me this and that. That fear need to be bridged. It's a gap. So how do we do this? Information, proper communication. Look, this is it. We are first your brothers. We are first your sisters before hanging any form of uniform. we are first human beings before acquiring any set of skill that has to do with protection. And what are we protecting if you are not comfortable with us? So when you approach people on this angle, they will come out. Remember, in intelligence, you require community-based service to gain, massive access when it comes to intelligence gathering. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Minabai, it's much like Chief Samson has shared here,
Yes.
intelligence gathering. It brings to question the debates on conversation of community policing. While at this point in time, vigilanting has become a part of our community, but the conversation is on the broader scope
Yes.
of community policing. How does this help in the debate about intelligence gathering?
Well, it's first of all, we need to understand that security consolidation is not just an affair of the military, but an interagency affair, not just an interagency affair, but a community-led kind of a driven affair. All right, so it's a combination of civilians, it's a combination of traditional rulers, it's a combination of the individuals in the society, and of course the different agencies. So when we talk about community policing, what is community policing? Community is, I am in the community, I look out for the things that are not going right, and I report it. And the debate has always been some state governors, some persons high in power will usurp the authority of those the community policing and use it against. I think that debate, as much as it is valid, should be looked at from a different context.
Yeah.
Okay, it's good from a different context, because why should someone from a faraway area come to my area when he doesn't know my area? And that is why the traditional rulers are there. That is why the community leaders are there. That is why the religious leaders are there, right? So it's community-led, it's religious-led, it is everybody-led. And so community policing is all about you and I in the community coming together to say enough is enough in our different and respective areas where we live. Because of the security situation, we have decided to come together and say, if we must be safe, all of us must come together, because we know the police, the military may not be at the places where crime is being committed, or any of these heinous crimes are being carried out at that point.
Yeah.
What are we doing as citizens? And that is why it is important that community policing should not be a cliche. It should not be something we discuss on forums and security meetings and security settings and security gatherings, and then we make postulations and make debates for and against. It is a collective responsibility, and everyone must be involved. So there shouldn't be too much debate about that, because the security situation is affecting each and every one of us. The federal police is there, so we have to wait for instruction from the top before something is carried out. And sometimes we say the governors are the chief security officers of the state, in quotes, but then their powers to take some certain actions are limited, because they are not the ones operating it. Give or take, there will be the current state of security apparatus in Nigeria. I don't be seeing oversight. I don't be seeing some what do you call it, some excesses being carried out. So are we saying that because excesses are being carried out by some of the security agencies and top brasses, we will allow our community to be overtaken and overridden by insurgents and people masquerading as whoever they want to be? So it's important. Community policing is important. There shouldn't be a debate about it. The debate should be how, when this community policing starts, and the vigilantes are already playing a very critical role across different regions in Nigeria, from the civilian JTF to the you hear of the Motekun, you hear of the what do you call it, in the southeast and other regions. These the hunters. All these are community-led approaches that are helping in policing, all right, and securing the community. So the debate about community policing, what it should be or not be, shouldn't be overemphasized. It should be, and it's important for the overall security of our nation.
You get to add to that.
Yeah. So thank you. Just to add to what he just said, You see, this whole thing is a multi-layer approach. Why the military, the police are faced with a bigger issue, the way the military are faced with the territorial integrities, trying to hold the country together, there is the first line of defense. First line of defense is a responsibility of citizens. But because when somebody doesn't know what to do, he will not do what he's supposed to do. He will shift blame and point accusing fingers. We can really, tell ourselves the truth that security is politics. And politics today is security. That is what is hindering community policing. But the truth is, that's one of the greatest big thing that will happen to us if it's achieved and well managed. Like I said, if you don't take care of how it is being managed, at the end of the day, the politics will overrule the system, which is the major challenges we're having today. Take, for instance, we are talking about safety, we're talking about not having enough manpower, but some individuals have enough manpower protecting them. So when you talk about security, they really don't see it from the angle of people who are faced with the critical issues, either in the communities or in their localities or areas where where they find themselves at one point or the other. So we look at the multi-layer system whereby we are directly in charge of our area. This is the reporting line. This is the monitoring system. This is the evaluating way. So people know this is what we are doing. This is how we have to do it. And there is a checklist. If not, it will be hijacked. And that hijack is still a product of politics in the system. But in the end, community policing is an idea and is a baby that this country needs to be bettered.
Now, Minabai, coming to the different regions in the country, we have different forms of insecurity affecting them.
Yes.
Would I say the mother of them all has been the Boko Haram situation in the Northwest?
Yes.
And quite recently, we saw Governor Babagana Zulum crying out to the National Assembly that there needs to be a security summit to address Boko Haram resurgency. I'd like you to speak to this new, renewed onslaught of Boko Haram that's also seen military bases attacked.
Okay. It's interesting because for more than a decade we've been fighting the Boko Haram insurgents and gains have been made. All right, what we're discussing on consolidating military gains in security here in Nigeria, it's basically because sometimes when we get the gains, we relapse. And the truth is, the victory cannot be sustained when you relapse, when you think you've got the victory. And Babagana Zulum of Borno State today it's not the first time Babagana Zulum is shouting about this, and he's also warned recently that the gains that were once seen in the different communities in Borno State are being threatened. So what do we begin to do? These areas that we have won, these areas that the Nigerian military, and we want to say kudos to the Nigerian military, kudos to them. They have done an amazing work, trying to repel and eliminate these marauders trying to destroy the integrity of our nation. The military have done great. However, can we sustain the tempo? Can we not, slide back because we've won? And remember, Boko Haram, all of the kidnappers and the bandits, those guys don't engage in conventional warfare. Over the years, I think we should have been able to know how these terrorists, these people operate, and know that these guys don't play the conventional game. So with intelligence and with analysis and data and all of the things that have happened over the 20 years that we're still talking about, we should have been able to say, because of the nature of their style of operation, we can say, okay, this. Now we've known initially they were targeting soft targets, churches, markets, all of those areas. Now we've seen an onslaught coming on military formations. I think with the years of experience that we've been fighting this should have been able to give us somehow an understanding of the pattern of this guerrilla warfare that these terrorists are engaged in. If we don't understand that and we keep thinking that because we have gained, because we have reclaimed territories, kudos, and we relapse and we don't take concerted effort, especially having resettled citizens and communities back, do we now leave them empty? It's like a strong man coming into your house. You push the strong man out and then you didn't close the door because you think you have won. That is what is happening, and the efforts to consolidate that should be intensified, and that's what Babagana Zulum is talking about. More presence. That we have won doesn't mean that things cannot happen, and the recent attacks on military bases is only telling us something. Military bases that porous? I don't think so. We have the capacity, and so everybody must be on alert that your target is no longer about soft targets, it's no longer about hard targets, it's no longer about any of these places. These guys come anyhow, anywhere, anytime. So everyone must be on alert, and if we must consolidate that, then it means that a number of factors needs to be put in place. Those communities that have been retaken by the Nigerian army, kudos to them. Can we begin to set posts, set missions, set stations that will continue the victory? Because that's the victory march. When we take over a territory, we continue in that. We don't relapse because we know the enemy might come again. And so when we take this, we put a station there. This is our territory. It's not just by mounting the Nigerian national flag, but that is a territory because we know this territory is susceptible to that. Talking about security conference, how many security conferences have we had in this nation? What is the outcome of the security conferences that we've got? You know, Nigeria is not bereft of ideas on how to tackle its insecurity issues. We have the best brains to talk about it and deal with it. Have we seen political will to implement a number of the summits, gatherings, community policing gatherings that we've talked about? Have we seen it? If we really want to consolidate on these gains and take over our territories like a sovereign nation, then we need to begin to put these factors in place. Resettlement of the citizens. After resettlement, also empowering the citizens. After empowering the citizens, making posts around those areas, because those places are volatile areas. So Babagana Zulum call is not far-fetched. It is the reality, and he is the one at the forefront because he is the chief security officer of the state. And I love what he did, spending some time with the communities to show that he is committed to ensuring that the victory that have been sustained in these communities, Bama, across other villages, is taken. Thank you.
Now, your colleague raised a very sensitive point. He said it will not be the first security summit we're having. Yeah. We've had a series of security summits. There have been recommendations. Yeah. It's on assessing how well these recommendations have been implemented. And as much as we complain about the insecurity in the Northwest, have there been some areas of improvement, or do you think that much has not been done in terms of actively combating Boko Haram?
Thank you very much. The truth is, we have had massive gains compared to what was and the way they came and the way they have been resurfacing. You could tell categorically that at every point in time, you keep seeing new dimensions because they are not formal attacks. They resurface at any time, and the military has been at the forefront doing the needful. Like he said, and I want to, emphasize on the aftermath. When you conquer a territory, it's good you have conquered, but you don't dwell on that level. There is another level, which is the consolidation. How do we consolidate in such areas? Who are the possible machineries that can be used either to our advantage or to our disadvantage? Who are these people? They are the youths. So if you leave them unattended to, then they can now be used against the rest of the people. But if you now attend to them, then you win them over and use them to sustain the tempo. Okay, if you pull the whole military to use them to, sustain the victories that are won in a particular territory, you will end up domiciling them in that particular environment. And how many manpower do we have? And when they have also stayed there for a certain number of time, you've also lowered their morale, because they need to keep moving. They need to keep conquering, because these guys can surface at anywhere and at any point. There's no specific address to where and how they want to go about it. So when we look at these things, we have to sit down and bring developmental changes, impacts to that community. If after winning a community where Boko Haram, or any form of insurgence has been going on, and the military succeeds in winning as they have been winning all this while, government need to step up. It's no longer time to pay lip service to that aspect of consolidation. They've done well. They've acquired equipment. All the machineries provided. We're also seeing the result of those, equipments. Now we need another result from consolidation. If not, you will fight today and come back again to fight. So should we be more interested in winning battle or more interested in winning war? What do? Engage the youths. A hungry person, a hungry man does not pursue ambition. He pursues anything that can give him food per time. So when they are idle and they don't have means of living, let me tell you, if the other party engages them, to win them is very simple. So what do? Create workshops that can empower people, get them engaged, then commit the responsibility of sustenance of that particular environment into their hands. They will do it with their full chest. Thereby, the military focuses on the external aggression, because it will be very difficult for them to, penetrate back. I'll give you an instance. Some time ago, Tafawa Balewa is a local government in Bauchi State. When some of these things happened there in those days, fire everywhere, this one, that one, what did they do? Because they understand their terrain, they decided to, rise up. Youth from the community, men, they decided to rise up. Some even climbed trees to mount watch. Some went to the mountains. They were there. They were not needing any form of extra conviction. All they know is that we can no longer watch our village go down like this. And some of those villages, they were there. And they resisted any further attempt or attack. In fact, the last set that tried it, they dealt with all of them. And since then, it has been peaceful. Even with all the recent happening, we have not heard anything about Tafawa Balewa in that map. Why? The people chose, to step up their game in making sure these things are done. So the government need to begin to create programs. That's why it is also good and important that as the military are retiring, as the police are retiring, DSS are retiring, these men that you have invested in intellectually, both on information and intelligence, it is time to reintegrate them back into the society. We keep hearing the slogan retired but not tired, but it's a talk. How do you manifest this into reality? It's to engage these people back in the society, because when they were serving, there was a huge gap between them in uniform and the general public. But when they hands off from the uniform, where are they falling back to? Are they falling back to the barracks or the general public? So they are coming back to live among the people. So they should be the chief information security officers.
Now, not to cut you short, but this is also one of the reactions that the conversation on youth inclusion has garnered in the National Assembly on the floor of the Green Chambers. It is being called a legislative milestone. There is an advocacy for more inclusion of not just youths, but also 15% female inclusion in enlistment, recruitment, and appointment of personnel into the armed forces, which has passed second reading. Let's take a listen to the moment this was deliberated on the floor of the House, and then come back to our panel of discussants in the studio to get more perspectives. Take a listen.
To ensure that at least 15% of women representation in the enlistment, recruitment, and appointment of service personnel required by the armed forces to provide and maintain a gender-responsive compliance program in enlisting, recruitment, training, provision of accommodation, operational engagements, provision of logistics, marital status, posting, and discipline of service personnel, and ensure that the establishment of a unit to monitor and maintain records of gender-responsive compliance program and disaggregated data.
Now, the honorable lawmaker from Lagos State there talking about a need for a unit, not just beyond this becoming a law as passed by legislature, but in its implementation, recruitment of the 15% female enlistment, not just the youths in general. In terms of intelligence gathering and even undercover activities of certain female personnel, does this form an important basis of the conversation?
This is very, very important. You know, women are very powerful when you empower them to do the needful. You cannot undermine their impact in any sense. Look at what women are doing currently in civil defense. You see them, strikers. You can't imagine that these are women. So I for me, as an individual, I support this, opinion and motion, hopefully believing that the Green Chambers will do the needful and make this and sustain it. There is something she said about providing necessary welfare. That's another area. If you look at the men in service or the women in service, where they stay, sometimes you wonder, is this the person, the man or the woman who have volunteered? Because an act of protection starts with volunteering that I want to do this. What goes behind in terms of welfare and encouragement? When they go down, we forget about them in most cases. Is that sort of encouragement or discouragement? So I support this bill if this, is finally passed. Let's have more women in the area of intelligence. Trust me, they will do extremely well beyond the mere imagination. I mean the women. Then improving on the welfare at large will further boost the morale of the men at the forefront. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, let me come to you, Minabai. Okay. Is it an issue where we continue to revisit these conversations on improved packages, pay packages for service personnel as a key incentive to motivation?
We cannot have enough of that conversation. The more we talk, the more we'll keep talking, and the more we'll continue to talk. Because if you don't talk, I'm not sure people will hear. So the conversation should not be like it's getting too much. The more we hear, the more it becomes something very significant in our minds and in the policymakers. It's not overstated. We will continue to speak about it. The welfare cannot be overstated. You know, the package of our servicemen cannot be overstated. Beyond the welfare, beyond the package, beyond the increment in salaries, beyond the increments in war allowances, some which are being owed, you know, beyond that, the other aspects of welfare is when these servicemen come back from the battlefront, from the battlefield, and all of this, how do we integrate them? Mr. Sam was talking about integration. Now, the integration comes also from how do we, you know, help them in their psychological, you know, orientation. If some of them, if they're going through PTSD. How do we help them come out of that state, all right? And how do we also bring them into a place where they use their wealth of experience, they're empowered to use their wealth of experience to do other things. The Nigerian Armed Forces,
Remembrance Day?
Rehabilitation, is it?
Training center.
Yes, NARC. Yes, that center where servicemen goes. All right, it's in Lagos. There's a campus in Lagos. They go there to learn skills. That's the mission of that center, where when they come, they go to those places to learn skills. They learn skills like music, they learn skills like fashion, they learn things like infotech.
To help them reintegrate
to help them reintegrate back and become more useful in the society and not look like people who are coming having issues with citizens. So what I want to suggest to that center is that the subjects they are teaching, or the subjects they are bringing in there, are great. However, in this age and time, can we rejig that curriculum at the Nigerian Army Rehabilitation Center or Reintegration Center? All right, I'm not getting that name correctly, but it's NARC, a platform where a serviceman goes to get reintegrated with skills. Can we up the game in the curriculum? We're talking about cybersecurity today. We're talking about data analysis today. We're talking about data protection. We're talking about the digital space. Okay, if that's information security. So, can the center? I would suggest that the center looks at that and improve on those areas. Entrepreneurial, yes. The fashion, yes. They are great, but our servicemen have been to the battle. They've known how to plot their maps and their graphs and know how to gather data and make intelligence out of that data. When they are coming out, when they are being reintegrated and giving that psychological psychological evaluation and analysis and all of those to reintegrate into the society, can we now put their skills, come into information security, not just coming to be a chief security officer for a plaza, not just coming to be a chief security officer for an agency, and then what they pay them is still paltry. All right, they're coming from a place where their welfare is not well taken care of, and the most job they only get is CSO. Man, can we move from CSO and come to chief information security officer? Can we move from CSO and become a cybersecurity specialist and analyst? Can we move from a CSO and become data analysts? Gather data. These are the people who have been to the field. They know how these things work. Their experience is there. Can we bring them into the room where we sit down to make decisions, especially in going out there to the field, in taking down enemy territories? Because I have been in the field, I'm familiar with the field. Once we gather 1, 2, 3 data based on experience, I can say this is where the next attack is going to come in, based on what we've seen and based on the data we have here. So I think more of the 21st century skills should be imputed with that center there, to also enhance the welfare, so that our people, our servicemen, can fit into, because these skills are money-making skills. Fashion is money-making skills, is great and wonderful, but you see, sometimes someone who has been in the battlefield will not be patient to sit down. I'm not speaking for nobody right now, but I'm just trying to think. You've been in the battlefield. You've been all about thinking, fast thinking, strategizing, and you want to do fashion as a way of, trying to meet up. Can we bring them and put them into another fast-paced environment where their alertness is still there? Don't play with our servicemen, ex-servicemen. Those guys are still smart, still sharp, still doing very well. Put them in the right places, the round peg in the round holes, and we will see improved gains on the security that we have already seen. So I think welfare, increment in salaries and is good, but then can we shift to the 21st century reality and begin to put them in data analysis, begin to put them in data protection, begin to put them in cyber security, begin to put them in chief information security officers and protocol officers and executive protection professionals.
Even consultants.
Now, Chief Samson, much like Minabai has stated, they need to tap into the wealth of ex-servicemen that we have.
Yeah.
I'm very sure some military protocols also mandate compulsory retirement on the appointment of junior officers. We've seen it countless of times.
Yeah.
But the conversation also on the broader scope is some Nigerians have been pushing the need for recruitment of even some other military forces outside Nigeria to help us deal with our challenges. Do you think that hired guns, mercenaries, apart from ex-servicemen, would be a way to solve Nigeria's insecurity?
Like I said earlier, the solution we all need is here as we speak. We have the requisite knowledge and intelligence, and also the capacity to deal with everything that emanates from here. Nigeria is that good and well grounded. Let me take your mind back to the 90s. Still on our military, the ECOMOG, the wars they fought. What was the rating? Did we not stand out? Or have we not been standing out in peacekeeping missions? Where was it another, help that came to Nigeria to go and Nigerian police outside the shores? What's the rating? Even till date. The question, the point, like I said earlier, is the fact that there is these two guys matching themselves headlong: politics and security. If they don't take their place respectively, we will keep, chasing shadows. Now, foreign mercenaries, there is need when need arise for you to call for help when you really need it, not ceremonial. If we get to that point, we will explore it as an option. But until then, there is something we need to do inside, internal.
Yes.
Now, on the part of the government, speaking to this issue of politics and security at a rivalry in the country, the government's approach, now we're leaving the Northwest and coming to the Middle Belt. In the Middle Belt, part of the issues which they say are the causative agents are the farmer headers crisis, with the infiltration of some Fulani heads group and armed cattle rustlers. They have decided on the part of government in a political move to commission the Ministry of Livestock, saying that it will provide some political solutions to the issue of farmers and header. What's your opinion on this political move to solve a security issue?
My problem with that is implementation. You see, we cannot, when you see mosquito perch on your body, on your hand, you cannot be watching the mosquito and be beating your leg. The person you need to deal with is the mosquito you're seeing. So when we have issues like this, we should be more focused on addressing the issue than creating a lasting solution. Because you must deal with your challenge first before looking for a way to, curb further challenges. But when you leave them unattended to, you may end up chasing shadows. So many proposals have come and gone. Many you are also aware of. You debate it, you hear a lot. In fact, some of them will sound so nice that you end up not eating the day you heard the news, because you were so excited that hope has come. solution have come. But after a while, you no longer even, you now like, I used to hear, maybe was I sleeping when those things happen? When you research, you realize that nothing happened.
In terms of implementation.
In terms of implementation. Because they are sweet talk. Talk is cheap. We always hear it. But let me tell you, you cannot undermine the power of community-based approach. I keep saying it. I've also done my research. I moved.
And Chief Samson, in Benue State, the community at a point were fed up with the recurrent onslaught by farmer headers, and they took out their disgruntlement on the houses of elected political officials in the communities in Gwe West, particularly in Benue. They burnt the houses of certain chairmen, representatives in the National Assembly, in a voice of their displeasure that this issue has lingered on for so long and nothing has been done. When you talk about this community approach, how do you now mediate in aggrieved communities where they are now even losing trust in their elected officials and reacting in that instance?
Okay, so thank you very much. That side you mentioned now, I'm very important, interested in that. Look, those guys did that out of frustration, like you said, and when people are frustrated, they can give in to anything. There is a way to handle this. Let the elites, the political umpires from this environment, they can come together. Inward, look at their peculiar challenges and the solution they can proffer. We have young men from here, willing and able, but there is no resource and empowerment to stand and say, let's watch while the rest sleep in this community. When you have done that, call the community leaders, the chiefs of those areas, the youth leaders, call them, sit down with them. They are pained with the realities they are seeing. Some of them are somewhere, some of them are even in Abuja here. They don't really know the impact. Just, was it last week, a friend of mine from Benue who was giving me breakdown. I almost went to the place. Just that I was fully engaged to see things for myself. The level of things that happened in his own place. Now, what are we saying? When they come together like this and look at these issues, you will make your approaches. Trust me, you will get, because you need guideline, you need supervision, you need direction. So who provides this direction? The Department of Security Service. They are there to help. They are there to provide the guidelines. The Nigerian police are there. Why? That is why I say information management is one of the greatest challenges.
Now, I'll come to Minabai. He's laid down the need for this guidelines. But in practicability, some of these communities do not even have a security signpost. The nearest police station is about the closest distance, 50 kilometers from where these headers and would I call them now arms cattle rustlers invade people's community. How do we implement these guidelines in terms of the approach which your colleague has brilliantly laid down?
Yes, the implementation of such guideline is simple, like he mentioned. Let's come together. You know, no matter how we postulate, no matter how we give suggestions, you know, if we don't come to the table and set out what the guidelines should be, we may not get the results. And you don't push a goat to the wall and expect it not to, you know, find a way to escape. That is what is happening. The people have taken their destinies into their hands, not even taking the laws into their hands, because these guys are suffering too much. Now, like he mentioned, all of the security agencies, if they are willing and committed to see to the end of this disaster, these wanton killings, unnecessary killings, then we will come to the table and say, okay, once this is the situation, that's where protocol comes in. Once this is the situation, this is who to report to, this is the channel of reporting, this is how to deal with it. There's hierarchy of communication, all right? We, as much as you want to defend yourself, all right, we would also want you to go against the law in defending yourself. Okay, we say, okay, communicate to this person, this person, this person. But sometimes in desperate situations, some of those bureaucracies can be made flexible so that when incidents are happening, when situations are happening, some of those long process of call this to call this to call this to give the final command will not be there, because when disaster happens, it happens within a second. And at that point, the instinct of man is to fight or flight. At that point, it's fight or flight. I'll not be interested in knowing who to call at that point in time, because if it happens, if you have been around places where incidents happens, you become disoriented. You become disoriented, and your actions may not be in line, so to speak, with what it should be. So everybody needs to come together, the community leaders, the youth leaders, the traditional rulers, religious leaders in those communities. But why are we still talking about this? Why are we talking about this? Benue has been a regular occurrence. When Governor Otom was governor of Benue State, he was shouting every now and then, these people are destroying our farmlands, are killing our people. Is there something sinister about Benue State that nobody is talking about, that we don't want to end this supposed headers, farmers, cattle rustlers that we don't know? Everybody must be on ground. Everybody must be on ground to make sure that we chart out how we want our communities to be protected. It's not a one-man thing. It's not a federal government thing making a declaration from the seat of power and say, this is what you will do in Benue. No, it's a community-led approach.
Yes. Well, all right, in closing, we have little less than 5 minutes to wrap up.
Right.
These are the bigger challenges. The agitation in the south is farmer headers crisis, spreading to Ondo, Middle Belt, Boko Haram, banditry, terrorism, finance allegations, all affecting Nigeria. But another very worrying indication is the rise in crime and criminality, particularly in kidnapping in Nigeria. It is now becoming even more prominent in other places where, relative to now, we said is peaceful. In the FCT, even ex-force men have had their homes invaded. They've been kidnapped. Ransom demands have been made. Political stalwarts, even high-ranking people in party politics, are now being kidnapped. When you come down to the average citizen, they're also being kidnapped. People tied to the rise in poverty, but which should not be an excuse. Why do you think that we're now grappling with kidnapping on this high rate?
Thank you very much. I think so many things have happened already, and people decided to, turn the other way in diverse means. You can attribute kidnapping as one of the peculiar challenges facing the country currently. But be it as it may, we also, of the advocacy that it's high time people begin to know more about their personal safety and security. There has been this issue of once you can afford a police escort, you just go and get it. So what happens to those who cannot afford it? And it's high time we begin to get people to understand that safety begins with you, irrespective of whoever you were looking up to for your protection or for your guidance. So we have to look at it, because crime, there is no excuse for crime. Every crime is crime, and we have to be mindful of them. So what do? We have to engage. We have to engage with clear orientations, understanding security measures and implementations, the levels, the approaches to use on daily basis. Look at what social media have done. Look at what goes on in people's houses. There are cases of kidnaps that come from the house where you live, people that work for you. And it brings me to an important point. How do you treat your domestic staff? Even the people that work in your organization. Do you just see them as, and they're seeing you doing big things, and you see them as ants? You see, because it is a mental stuff. So that they will see know their place and know your place, and by so doing it will reduce the quest for shortcuts, because what you do for kidnapping is just like somebody who says, why should I be working from 8 to 5 every day and earn 40,000 or earn 60,000 at the end of the month, when somebody can go somewhere and stand, and maybe after 1 hour or two he earns 50k or 100,000. So who is making more profit? So because it's already a mindset. Meanwhile, that is not value to your own self and your, you know, your well-being.
Yes.
So when we look at these things, this is the point where protocol deals with this whole thing, because protocol is order, is honor, is culture, is value that you're putting into people. When you understand that I must respect
Due process.
and yes, and I must respect your value and your culture. I must not export my culture to superimpose your culture. Then it brings me to the importance of love, because when I love you, I will not hurt you. When I see you as human, I wouldn't want to dehumanize you. Look at the tortures these people go through, and substance abuse contributes to these things. When people begin to, out of peer pressure and this trying to meet up with, I don't know what you want to meet up with, you start taking some substance and all of a sudden you start going crazy. And you do things that in your normal sense, if somebody tell you about it, you will even fight. But you are not the one doing it and laughing, not as if you're doing it and you're somehow something is pulling you back. So these are the areas you need to check. Substance abuse, drugs, name them.
Well, I'm afraid time is never our friends when we have this conversation, but it's important that we've established this relationship, and going forward we'd always look to tap in from the wealth of knowledge and your expertise in this field, and how we can better our security approach towards addressing peculiar situations in the country. I must thank you, gentlemen, for taking our time to attend to this conversation.
Thank you very much. Before we go final, I just need to make that correction from the Nigerian Armed Forces Resettlement Center. I needed to make that because I wasn't getting it. In NAFRC, Nigerian Armed Forces Resettlement Center.
Thank you very much for putting it out there.